Hi, I'm Joe James, and in this video I'm going to show you some quick easy ways to iterate Python lists. And as usual, I'll put this Jupyter notebook on my GitHub site, and I'll put the link down below so you can download this Jupyter notebook. You can run the code yourself and try it out. We're going to look at a variety of different ways to iterate lists, including using a standard Python for loop, a while loop, and the Python enumerate function. So really, which one of these is best for you is going to depend upon what you're doing inside that loop. If you need only the index of the item, you need the item itself, or maybe in some instances it's more convenient for you to have both a separate variable for both the index and the item to use inside of the for loop. So based on what you need inside of that for loop, you're going to be able to choose which one of these is going to work best for you in each instance. So let's look at different ways to iterate a list. So the standard for loop is great if all you need is the item. So here we have a list of items called letters, A, B, C, D, E. So there's 5 items in it, or 5 letters. And then the for loop goes like this. We can put any variable name we want here in this position here called letter. I put letter as my variable name, but you can put item or whatever you like. X for X in letters, that'll work fine. Whatever you want. For letter in letters, print letter. So all I'm going to do is print the item itself. I don't need the index of the item. So this works great, right? This is an easy way to iterate through this list of items, get a variable name for each item in the list, and then if all I want to do is print it, that works great. So that's the easiest and simplest way to iterate through a list, but sometimes, like I said, you may need the index. Now, if you need the index of an item inside the list, again, this is just a variable name. You can put any variable name you want here. You can put for I, index, or whatever you want. I put index as my variable name. For index in, now what we need to use is both the range function and the length function. We need to get the length of this list of letters, which is 5. We need to get that length, so we use the len function to get that. And we pass that in as an argument to the range function, and the range function is an iterable from 0 to 5, right? Non-inclusive, doesn't include the 5. It's going to go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So in other words, it's going to give us back a variable called index with values 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 as it iterates through this list of letters. And then when we print index and letters of index. See how we're using these square brackets here with our list name and the indexed inside the square brackets to get that item. So if we have the index, in other words, we can easily get, using square brackets and indexing, we can get the item itself. So this works okay. This is a little longer code than if you had a separate variable just for that item. But this works great in most instances. So look, here we get back the index and the item itself. So that is another way to do it if you need both, index and item. Now a better way, in a lot of cases, maybe not every case, but in a lot of cases, a better way is to use the enumerate function in Python. What the enumerate function does, it's going to iterate through this list of letters that we have, and enumerate is going to return a tuple. It returns a tuple with the 0th item is going to be unpacked into this index variable, and the 1th item is going to be unpacked into the item, right? Index item, or you can call it whatever you want. But these are just variable names in your for loop. You're going to put 2 variable names here because this is a 2-item tuple that's going to assign the index to the first variable and the item to the second variable. Now we have 2 different variable names that we can use inside the for loop for whatever we want. If we need to do calculations or perform operations or whatever, we have references to both the index and the item. So here all we do is a print statement, but in a lot of for loops you may have much more complex operation inside of the for loop. Here we have the index variable and the item variable. And again, we're just printing these out in this case, but sometimes it's handier if you're doing a lot of different operations inside of that for loop to get both references, to both the index and the item. You have separate variable names for those. So enumerate is an excellent way to do that. That's going to be cleaner than the previous method in a lot of cases. And what enumerate is doing under the hood, I just put this here for your reference. What it's doing under the hood is we can create an enumerate object by just calling the enumerate function on our list. And then what we get back is an enumerate class object. Okay, that's the type of enum object. It's the class enumerate. And that's an iterable. And so what we get when we print next enum object, we can use this next function, which I covered in my generators video. So if you haven't watched my generators video, you'll see how this next function works. Basically just gets the next item in that list. And the next item in an enum object list is a tuple. And in this tuple, the first item in the tuple is the index, and the second item in the tuple is the list item itself. So the enum object has these two items, has the index and the item. And what is happening in the enumerate for loop is that it's unpacking that tuple and assigning the index to the first variable name and the item to the second variable name. So that's how the enumerate function works. This is just for your reference. And lastly, there's this, I think, clumsier way to iterate lists in Python called the while loop. Maybe this is more practical in other programming languages, but quite frankly, in Python, I think this is probably the least popular way to iterate a list of items. For one, you have to initialize your index first to 0 before you go into your while loop. And then inside of the while loop, you have to increment index each time through. So there's 2 additional lines of code here versus just using a for loop where you could do it with 2 lines of code. With the while loop, you need 4 lines of code. So it's not as good of a solution. However, inside the while loop, you do get both the index and you can get the item using the indexing for the list. And actually, I didn't run this, so that's the output we get for that. So there you go. There are a few different ways here to iterate through lists, and you may find some better than others. I hope this video was helpful for you. If so, please click the like button and subscribe to my channel. I'm Joe James. Thanks for watching.